I'm doing this view. Okay. Record. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
So I just wanted to welcome everybody to our second webinar in this three-part webinar series called Understanding What Makes Sharing the Three Principles Most Impactful. It's great to see so many of you here live with us. I was just saying earlier on, we've had over 190 people sign up for our webinar series so far. So I know that from the emails I've received and the messages I've received, there are plenty of people waiting to see the recording. So hence we're recording it. Today's session is something that I know from experience is very popular in the coaching field for sure, where we have a live or 2 or 3, depending on what we can fit in the hour, live coaching demonstration with Jack Pransky and Gabriela Moldonado-Montano, our 2 coaches for this session. And this is a taster or a preview for our upcoming retreat that's going to be held in Spain, here in Spain, from the 27th to the 31st of October, called Helping Others Transcend the Personal. And of course, we'd love you to join us. We've still got a few spaces left. And I'll be announcing a juicy bonus at the end of this webinar, so stay tuned for that. And I just want to point out as well that Jack and Gabby, between them, you know, that we're here for coaching experience, they have over 40 years between them, not each, between them of coaching experience with the 3 principles. So they might know something by now with all their years of experience. So as I said, Catch has been really kind while I've been away on holiday and indisposed. I've been organising behind the scenes for the volunteers for today's session. So I'm going to hand over to Katja because she's a bit more au fait as to who and what and all that sort of thing. So over to you.
Hi, I just see Lucy. Lucy arrived now. So it's Lucy really who has the first slot today, and so Jack and Gabby. So this is your turn for Lucy to be coached, really. So you wanna just let us know what you wanted to be coached on, or I've disappeared.
Lucy, I want to say before Lucy, I don't know if Lucy's able to speak.
While she's coming on, Gab, why don't you say
Yes,
It's not muted. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to tell everybody again that we were preparing for this session. One of the things that we decided that was important is to let you know what's happening behind the scenes, or more like in our heads. And so we will stop every so often just to give you guys a little bit of that sense. Okay, like why are we asking what we're asking, or maybe why we're not asking anything. So we're going to keep you informed of that, hopefully often and every step of the way.
Hi.
Hi, Lucy.
I went into blind panic then when I was allowed to speak and pressed a button and the whole thing disappeared. So what do you want me to do? Just start with the question that I put on the email?
Sure.
Well, they don't know anything about the email, so you just start the conversation as if it's new, like, because we thought it might be fresh for you.
Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so what I'd like to be coached on is that as I'm developing my understanding of the 3 principles and studying in lots of different ways, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to get comfortable with forming relationships, particularly sort of romantic ones, because I do have a belief that people aren't going to connect to me on the level that I want to connect at, and that if they don't understand the 3 principles, then I kind of don't really know how I'm going to connect with them. And I've turned that into a whole big thing of there's no men in the world out there that I'm going to connect with, so I might as well not bother. And as ridiculous as I know that sounds, it even plays out in other relationships where I'm trying to have a conversation and I'm coming from one place and they're coming from somewhere else, and we just don't, where I can try and understand their world, they just don't understand what I mean if I say inside out, or that I'm responsible for my life and I want. So it's around all of that. How do you have a relationship with people that are not of this understanding?
Okay. So who's going to do this? Me or you, Gabriela?
You go. Go ahead. You go.
Oh, me go. Well, all right. So let me say, as a preliminary to it, that before I start any session, I have to get my head right first. I have to know that I am in my health, and that no matter what Lucy or anybody else comes up with, that I am going to maintain my health no matter what. Okay. The second thing is, this is a slightly awkward situation because Lucy and I don't know each other, and yet we really need to have a tremendous amount of rapport if we're going to really work well together. And there really isn't time, I would say, to develop a whole bunch of rapport. So, Lucy, I'm going to have to ask you if you wouldn't mind assuming rapport. Even if you don't have it with me. So there's that. And Lucy brings in whatever's on her mind. And I know that whatever's on her mind is what got her into the difficulty in the first place. So I want Lucy's mind to relax somehow, any way possible. And I want, because I don't know where I'm going to go with her, I want to get into listening mode, deep listening mode, so much so that I am just an empty vessel taking in the energy of Lucy. And since I don't have any idea where I'm going to go with her, anything's possible. So are you ready to start, Lucy? Okay, so the first thing I heard was a lot of thinking.
Yeah, because I'm nervous.
If you're nervous, just think how I am.
No, I've made you into the expert. You've got no problem.
Okay, so that's one thing we got to get straightened out right away. All right, this is with everybody. We got to get this straightened out right away. There are no experts, or we're all experts.
Yeah.
Okay? So anything that anyone has to say, it doesn't really matter, because the only thing that counts is whether, in this case, Lucy gets an insight, or at least if she walks away with a good feeling, because if she walks away with a good feeling, she might get an insight later. So that's what we're after. And there isn't anything that I can say, or Gabriela can say, or anybody else can say that can make Lucy have an insight. So we're just going to start and see what happens. Oh, I also want to say that I am not guaranteeing that this session is going to be successful, because the idea is a learning experience. Whether it's successful or not, the idea is that we all can learn from it. So that's the whole reason for doing this. Okay? I think that's all the background I wanted to say. So besides feeling nervous, Lucy, and first of all, I want to thank you for agreeing to do this in front of everybody, because that's not an easy thing at all. When I said I heard a lot of thinking, how did you respond to that, beyond nervousness?
I am aware that the whole burble of words, and behind those words were a whole load of different assumptions and beliefs and stories that I blurted out all at once, which was a mixture of some judgment towards people that are not on the same page as me, and in even having that judgment, I've kind of taken myself off that page because I'm not coming from the inside out. So I kind of was saying it all and thinking, well, you're just absolutely the real story underneath it all is that somewhere along the line I've decided to feel uncomfortable about connecting at a deeper level, and I'm putting up a load of stories to make about that, and because of that I don't even attempt to go on dating sites or meet people, because actually I'm quite comfortable on my own. I'm on my own. I have lots of friends, male and female, and so there's almost a bit of me going, why do I even want to bother having a relationship? Because when I look around me and I listen to my friends, I'm struggling to find someone who's enjoying a relationship. So there's that bit that's like, do I really want it? And there's a bit, I'm having it anyway because we're all one and we're all connected. So I'm kind of in relationship whether I want to or not because of the connection. So I heard all of that all at once.
Yeah, that's what I mean by a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
What's underneath it all?
Well, the thing is, underneath it all is a judgment. And although I'm talking about it as being a judgment of other people can't connect to me, it can only be me not connecting to me. I don't know why or what's in the way of that, because it makes no sense. Because I do connect really easily to people, but what I probably don't do is let them connect to me. But I don't know why I stopped that. It's probably protection, because like everybody, there's been a bad story that I still carry around a bit. That it's not worth getting into it, because relationships are just going to end up draining the lifeblood out of me.
Well, okay, I'm puzzled. Because I can't tell right now whether you're saying I would like to be in a relationship or I wouldn't like to be in a relationship.
Oh, neither can I. I don't know which of it is. And that's why I'm frustrated. I want to be in a relationship, but the relationship needs to be one that I want to be in. And I don't believe that I'm going to find it. So I'm not even bothering to look.
So just for everybody breaking away from this thing. So I'm in a state of total puzzlement right now. I have no idea where to go with Lucy. So I'm just going to throw some things out and see whether they take hold. You know, whether I throw out a question or whether I throw out a comment or something. I'm just trying to see if anything is going to be where we need to go. And I won't know that until I hear. So if I look like I'm floundering around, it's because I am. Because I'm in I don't know mode until I know.
Can I say something, Jack?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to tell you like what's in my head too, because I love this idea of just listening and listening and listening. Because as Lucy was telling us, right, what she wants and what she's sharing with us, there was a bunch of ideas that just rushed in my head. Like, oh, well, this and that and this and that and this and that, right? And that happens to me sometimes when I start talking to people. It takes me a few minutes to kind of settle. So I just wanted to add to your idea of really being able to listen deeply. Because one of the things that happens sometimes is we start just teaching too early. You know, we hear something juicy, like connection or whatever, and we move too quickly. So I just really appreciate what you're saying about truly understanding what we're talking about, and as ideas just pop in my head randomly, but paying attention to them and not grabbing onto like a teaching direction immediately. So just want to say.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So Lucy, I'm kind of tickled about something, really. You said that you have difficulty. I'm putting words in your mouth here, okay? So correct me if I'm wrong. You're having difficulty even wanting a relationship with people who see things from the outside in.
Yeah.
And what's tickling me about it is that when you're looking at them, you're seeing things from the outside in.
I know, it's what tickles me as well. It makes it's ridiculous.
So what does that mean to you?
It means that I am in danger of sending myself nuts.
Well, but why would that be? Why would that be? Like, what's behind it?
Because there is no answer to this. It's like if you're there's a lot of dating programs on at the moment, and things where you're just supposed to look at somebody and go, oh, they look like the kind of person that I want to be with. And that doesn't touch who the person actually is. That's totally the outside of them. And I don't relate to that side of dating. So what I want is some way of connecting and being able to connect. But I don't know what environment to find that in. Because the kind of conversations that people have are all about what people look like, or the way to meet somebody is by looking at them on a screen, or you go to a bar and it'll be like who's the most attractive, and all of that really does nothing for me at all. And I don't want to be in a cattle market, but equally I can't see where I go where I would actually fall into a conversation of this level. because you can't do that by just looking at something. You can only do that through some form of exchange in some way. And I just can't see where I would meet those people.
Well, so I was in your position not too long ago. And one of the things I realized about it is that I was looking from my ego.
Mm.
And there's no real good relationship connection that can happen from ego to ego.
Mm.
I mean, a really good relationship connection happens from heart to heart, underneath the ego. So I was wondering why I wasn't finding anybody.
Mm.
And then when I forgot about it, somebody showed up.
Mm.
And I've had a beautiful relationship with this woman when I wasn't looking for her.
Mm.
Took me by surprise.
And that's always what they say on dating things. It's like, stop looking and you'll find somebody.
Well, I think it's more like stop wanting.
Mm.
Because when the want is there, that's the ego talking.
I think what it is I was about to say, but I don't know that I want them, and that's not true. I think what's more going on is it's a whole set of things. It's so I'm about to say it's hard work to have a relationship.
Well, who says that?
Yeah, so I hold a belief in my head that's getting in the way. So I know that's intellectually, I know that's bonkers, but it is a belief that just leaves me unable to, I guess, unable to let me let go of it because I keep holding on to that thought.
Okay, so I'm seeing something here, and that is I just had it and I lost it. Let me reflect. Keep talking, it'll come back to me.
Well, it's interesting because I'm seeing that in the chat that there's like, 3P dating is what we need to have, and it's kind of caught my eye and slightly distracted, but it was the thought that went through my mind when I saw that is as soon as you put a mechanism around something, it will change the dynamic of what happens. So
okay, I know what I was going to say now. So you're seeing reality. Like what you know about relationships, that's reality.
Mm. Well, yeah, what I see is the majority of relationships not happening between happy people.
Well,
that's what I'm surrounded by.
So, okay, so you see that, whether or not it's true. you see that, and then you come to a conclusion about, therefore, relationships are this.
Yeah.
And therefore, if I get into a relationship, I'm going to be subjected to that same thing.
Yeah.
So there's a fear there.
Mm.
So here's what's interesting to me. So out of our incredible gift of the power of thought, so we get to make up stuff, right? So we make up, relationships are this way. So we look out of our eyeballs and we see a certain percentage of relationships are this way, therefore relationships are this way. And then we make up what our relationship to relationships is. Yeah, therefore, what does that mean for me in terms of getting into relationships or not? And is it really true?
No, it can't be, can it? Because otherwise I'd be saying that everybody on the entire planet is unhappy. And I know that's not true.
Okay, so that's not true, but you're believing the truth of it.
Yeah, which is why I find it such a ridiculous thing to keep going around.
You know, I'm hearing you say that, but I'm also hearing that you still want to hang on to it somehow.
Yeah, why would I do that?
I was just going to ask you that question.
Well, it's a pointless exercise. But I can still feel inside me that the rigidity. I actually feel a complete rigidity inside my body right now, which is almost like I'm hanging on, gripping onto it is not safe to be in a relationship. You cannot convince me otherwise. I am not going to go there. It's all hyped up. It's just dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I can feel that in every fibre of my body, whilst from in my heart, I know that's not true. But that bodily, I guess it might even be as literal as it's embodied in my body.
Well, what does that mean to you, Lucy, that you've got this really hard and fast belief about what relationships are, and yet you're saying that I know deep down in my heart that it can't really be true? Like, what do you make of that?
I don't know what to make of it. All I can tell you is that the feeling inside my body, so therefore the thoughts I'm having about it, are getting stronger and stronger and stronger as we have this conversation, and more rigid. And so it's kind of fascinating to feel, because it's all this. It could go to pain if I let it, but because of the degree of rigidity, it's all manufactured by me about something that's not real. And even though I know that, I'm still doing it.
Well,
what?
Yes. Well, here's the thing about understanding that the three principles mean that we create our own reality. We can say that. We can know that on one kind of a level. But once reality is created, it's real to people. You know, because consciousness employs all of our senses into believing in the reality of it.
That's really interesting, because I've been beating myself up a little bit, thinking it's an illusion. I know it's an illusion, but it isn't an illusion to me. It's real to me.
Yes, it's real to you.
And that is, now that's interesting, because that's changing, it's dissolving. That is really useful to know, because there's a kind of judgment that I've taken on somewhere, that it's all illusion and I should be able to see through the illusion, but I couldn't, because it's real.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. As long as it's real to us, there's no way we can drop it.
No.
And our only hope is to call that reality into question.
Mm.
Now, for everybody, that's where I was attempting to go with Lucy before we just talked about this. It occurred to me that she was seeing some reality that, you know, she saw as true reality, but, you know, she knows she's making it up, but it's real. And where I was wanting to go with her was hoping that she was able to call her own reality into question. By calling one's reality into question, it kind of shakes up their world a little bit. Like Lucy right now is a little bit confused about herself, right? And that's a really good place to be, because she went from, I know, you know, this is what I know about relationships, to maybe I don't know anything. What do I know here? Is what I know the truth? So where are you at right now?
I'm using my body as a way of telling what I'm thinking, because I want to leave my head out of it. And where I am now is that there is a softness beginning to happen.
Beautiful.
So that's a shift of reality.
Mm-hmm.
I could still talk up doubts about it.
Yeah, you could.
But that wouldn't actually serve me particularly. I feel as if there's a sort of a process almost where I just need to allow it to dissolve a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that on a visual level, on a sensory level, it was like an absolute rigid cage, which is softened. But now there is such a knot in my gut. So I'm not boxed in, but I'm scared.
So the knot is fear.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask your wisdom, what's the fear? What would it say?
It's a fear about my own strength and ability to stay true to myself and not get washed away by the tsunami of a relationship. No, I felt
wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting. So I want to go back for a second, okay, and just say, I never realized before, you know, until you said that you were beginning to feel softness. I never realized before that the world of I don't know is a very soft world. The world of I know something is a very hard, rigid world. And so it's a beautiful thing that, you were starting to feel a softness, which you certainly weren't feeling when we started this conversation. But then, and that allowed the uncovering, you could say, of this not to be felt in you.
Mm.
So it's almost like once one thing gets, what happened to you just then?
It shifted, and it's shifted from fear to sadness,
Mm.
and a really deep sadness that I can't have the relationship that I want.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Ooh, that's totally different.
Yeah.
And I could only feel that sadness if at some level I feel I don't deserve it.
Mm.
Because I'm the only person who can stop it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know I felt that.
Well, that's great to see. But who says that?
Oh, still me.
I mean, who says I can't have the relationship I want?
Well, it's still a level of me because there's no one else to say it.
Yeah. So in other words, that's another thing that we make up inadvertently.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't have the relationship I want. So that's another thing that needs to be called into question.
Because I don't have any evidence for that.
Well,
I get what I want.
so that's interesting. So it's almost like by coming up with that, it's almost like it gives you it gives you something. I'm not articulating this well enough. I'm not sure how to say it.
Well,
What do you get out of it?
Well, what I've just noticed is I've made relationships a thing.
Mm.
So it's like a thing that you're allowed to have and not allowed to have,
Huh.
like a cake. And it's kind of, and somewhere along the line, I've bought the idea that cake is bad for me, that relationships are bad for me, and therefore that I need to avoid them for my own protection.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever rubbish I've made up about it, but that's kind of to explain it. That's kind of what it feels, and it's like, how can a relationship be a thing? Because it's a connection. It's not a it's an energy connection, not a pair of handcuffs.
Yeah.
And I've turned it into a physical for whatever reason. Really interesting.
I'm gonna throw out something right now that I don't know whether it's true or not, but what if the only relationship that we could find ourselves in is one that universal mind or God sent our way? So no matter how hard we try from the ego, suppose it doesn't even matter. Somebody's going to show up in our life or they're not.
Yeah, now you see, now you've got to another thorny issue. Because I believed that my husband was sent by God.
Mm.
And then I ended up in a relationship with somebody who was bipolar, and I went through sheer hell.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really like what God sends, thank you. So, and again, I know that I'm laughing at myself because, but there is a difference for me between God and the universe. There isn't really, but the word God has has a memory attached to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, but it's all part of the. It's interesting because I'd forgotten that I held God accountable for sending the wrong one.
Mm. Well, who says it was the wrong one?
I've had huge gifts from my relationship with Bob. Lots of them wrapped up in paper I didn't like, but they were still wonderful gifts.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I just don't want any more. I'd like my relationship gifts to arrive in wrapping paper that actually reflects what's on the inside, instead of being covered up. Because with him, because of his mental health, what he looked like and who he was were different.
Did at the beginning of your relationship, did you experience any red flags that you decided to ignore?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked myself into it because I believe that God was behind it all. And that's a whole nother story of childhood and family relationships. And I guess maybe that's where my fear comes from, that I can be different.
So it's about trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can I? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the knot is now changed shape in my guts. Still there though.
But interestingly, you told me you saw some things at the beginning that were red flags to you, that you decided to ignore because, and then you had a whole bunch of reasons why. Whether it be God or anything else, it's a reason why, okay?
Yeah.
And that reason why overrides our wisdom that is speaking to us, okay? So that's one of the things that is our growth edge. So like the next time we get involved in a relationship, are we going to listen to our wisdom? Or are we going to come up with reasons why it is to be ignored? And that's huge. That's a huge thing.
And I can see that I've done that on other occasions as well. So it's not just about relationships, it's about putting somebody else in authority over my life rather than me. So that kind of assuming that somebody else, whether that be God or whether that be anybody, that they know better than I do. And that can't be true because they're not me.
Yeah. So what are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling a lot lighter, exhausted. Feel like I've been on, I don't know what I've been on, but I feel like I've kind of been beaten up.
Oh.
In a nice way.
I didn't mean to beat you up.
I think that when you sort of unravel it all and you just get back to you've just listened to somebody else instead of yourself and believed it, and whether that's somebody else is your own thought or actually another person, either way my wisdom got overshadowed,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important to notice, because there's a real difference in feeling for me
Mm-hmm.
when my wisdom's guiding me and when something outside of me, which includes my thoughts, is guiding me. The feeling of that is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a calmness, even though I'm uncomfortable and, you know, being watched. There's still a calmness which is completely beyond anything that's physical.
Yeah, and it's something that we can always rely on. All we have to do is pay attention to it and not allow ourselves to be distracted by what, by our typical habitual thinking. So I'm going to suggest that we finish now. All right. And so I want to thank you for subjecting yourself to me in front of the entire group. And I think that's a very brave thing. And I really appreciate you for doing that.
Thank you. I'd say it's been a pleasure, but it isn't a pleasure yet.
Well, you never know what's going to happen to you now.
Absolutely. I'm sure I know that this is a lovely release. So it will continue. So thank you very much.
Great, Lucy. Thanks again. So first, Gabriela, do you have anything to say?
Well, as an observer, I just love noticing Lucy, because there was a point towards the last end of your conversation where I just felt a serenity. Mm-hmm. I just sort of recognized, and I kind of felt like, okay, this was really nice. So Jack, I'm just wondering if you, like the questions that you ask, if you had a hunch or, why were you asking those questions? Like the questions about relationships and question about fear. Did they just come up to you, or could you tell us a little bit more about that? What was going on inside your...
Yeah. Well, like I said, I didn't know where I was going at first. So I was throwing out questions or throwing out comments, seeing if anything would take hold. And I heard something about reality. So I got puzzled because the reality that Lucy was talking about and the reality that it looked to me like she was taking her reality very, very seriously. And it was a reality that, at least at the time, it didn't look like she was realizing that she created it beyond the intellect. So then suddenly, so I get that thought and I have to go after that somehow. And then I forget how the fear thing came up, but I just get something occurs to me from within. I don't know what to say about it.
So it's kind of like fishing, right? Just like throw one and see if you throw another one.
Yeah.
I'm being reminded that we're going to be closing here pretty quickly. Are we? So we're almost done. I don't have any more questions. I don't know if Sheila or Katya have any comments. I know that we need to start wrapping up.
Oh,
yeah, I'm go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
I was just going to say I had no idea what time it was because I don't have a clock in front of me. So.
We're coming up to the end, and I just wanted to thank Lucy again for being so courageous and I think it's a vulnerable position to be in. As much as we know about thought, I still think, oh, we can really get into our heads about it. And I can see a few comments on the chat. People have been very appreciative of it, Lucy. So thank you for volunteering. And also, sorry to those who volunteered and didn't have time. We didn't have time. We never know with these things whether it's going to be 1, 2, 3. It's a 5-minute job or a 50-minute job, and today we seem to be a 50-minute job. So of beating up Lucy. Bless her. So thank you everybody for being here.
I was just going to say also, Sheila, that you know, in the training retreat that we're doing around this subject, I mean, we're going to have plenty of time to like delve into what happened more and respond to people's questions and comments about it. And I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to do that here, but that's the whole idea of being in a retreat together around this subject. Yeah,
having 5 days to do it too. And that reminds me, our next webinar, we're going to be doing another taste of what will actually be happening on the retreat, and that means we need 2 volunteers, one to play Lucy's role of today, and one to play Jack's role of today. And then Jack and Gabby will be coaching the coach. So I'll actually send out an email and try and explain that maybe a little better in the email. So what we'll be doing on the next webinar, which is the 5th of October, is watching what we've just watched now, but it won't be Jack or Gabby in the coach's seat. It'll be one of our registrants who puts their hand up and says, yes, I'll be the coach, and then I'll be coached by Jack or Gabby or both, while I coach somebody else.
Yeah, and it'll be a different subject, you know, whatever's real, whatever's real for the person who is volunteering.
Absolutely. So maybe just have a little reflect on that, everybody, and see if you would like to play one of those roles. Well, yeah, it's not playing, as Jack said, it's real. It's real. We're not role playing. But that's something that we'll be doing at the retreat too. So that's so. Go on, Jack. You want to say?
I just had an idea too. Is that if people send any questions or comments in to I don't know whether they would go to Sheila or Katya.
Sheila.
Okay, they would go to Sheila. Maybe we can start to deal with some of those comments next time as well. Like any comments about this thing, we can also deal with next time as well.
Okay, I'll make sure I put that in the email that goes out. Cool. Where will we find details of retreat? Somebody said. Good question. I'll send it out in the email that I'll send out with the recording tomorrow. But it's at www.2retreats.eventbrite.com. In fact, Katya, could you put that in the chat while I just wrap this up? So yeah, when you go there, you'll see the price of the retreat there. And what we're doing for the next 72 hours, 3 days, is we're offering a €300 discount on the price that you'll see on that page. And so I'll put all this in the email that I send out tomorrow. So you've got 3 days to think about this and decide whether you want that €300 discount. And if you do, then it'll be a question of sending me an email and for me to set up how to pay for that, because I don't want to mess with the Eventbrite page now. I think it would be too confusing. Okay, so that's the juicy bonus for the next 3 days that we want to put out there. Yeah, and thank you everybody for turning up and joining us on this webinar, because it wouldn't be anything without you. So we're really grateful for you being here today too. And look forward to seeing you on the next one on the 5th of October.
Okay, thank you all. And
we have to go now because we've got another webinar to do on the hour. Okay, bye everybody. Thanks a lot. Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Could you unmute everybody if I knew how? Unmute. Oh, there you go.
Hi
everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes.
Amazing. Good to see you, Katya.
Hey, do.
It's good to see you too. Speaking.
Hello.
Bye.